The power of Christ to change people's lives for the better was evident in his words of mercy, his touch of kindness, his glance of compassion, his embrace of firmness, his heart of understanding, his tears of concern, his prayers of anguish, his brokenheartedness over sin, and his precious blood. All of these Jesus used to alter and change men and women for the good. Peter was changed. It was Jesus who changed Simon Peter from the profane denier of Matthew 26 into the intrepid proclaimer of Acts chapter 2. And what an astounding transformation took place in this apostle's life. Jesus truly brought about a heartwarming difference in the life of Peter. Next we see that the demoniac was changed. It was Jesus who confronted a stormy, restless, demon-possessed man and changed him into a quiet and submissive person. Mark chapter 5 and verse 5 speaks of this man and says, "And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones." Jesus came, met with this man. And Mark 5 and verse 15 says, "And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion, sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid." Friends, this unfortunate man was a hopeless case until Jesus delivered him from this misery that he was in. At the last, he found serenity of soul at the feet of the Savior. And indeed, the Lord has altered the course of many lives and made them into his obedient souls. Also, we see that John was changed. There was a time when words of retaliation fell freely from the lips of the Apostle John. In Luke 9 verses 53 and 54 it says, "And they did not receive him because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did?" Now listen to John's words many years later as he exhorts the brethren. 1 John 4 and verse 7 he writes, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and every one that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God." Between the time that he said, "Let's kill these individuals," and the time that he said, "Let's love one another," something occurred that changed John. John had become better and better acquainted with Jesus and his ways of love. And that was the difference. We also see that the Samaritan woman was changed. It was Jesus who produced this change in her life. In John 4, verses 17 and 19, the text says, "The woman answered and said, I have no husband. And Jesus said unto her, Thou hast said well, I have no husband. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet." The woman was a 5-time loser in the marriage arena, and what a pitiful and unchaste social outcast she had become. Yet we see in John 4 and verse 29, "Come, see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ?" This woman was transformed from a life of sin and shame and scandal to a faithful voice declaring, "Is not this the Christ?" Indeed, the Lord has favorably altered numerous lives for good. But we have to ask ourselves, have we allowed his influence to be noticed in our own lives? It's necessary to note that the astounding, life-changing power of the Son of God works in harmony with the will of man. That is, if your life is changed, God will not overrule your will and force the needed changes upon you. Things will change only if you allow and desire the changes. You are the key. The matter is in your hands and in your control. You must freely accept God's will for your life if change is going to occur. God is not going to twist your arm, but he loves you so much that he has given you free choice to say yes or no to him. If you're living a life today that needs changing, you and God can make the change, and you and God together can keep that change. Friends, we encourage you to consider these things and have a blessed day.